For this week, I will be answering questions 1 and 3. So, for the first question, the two initiatives that created worse outcomes for patients who suffer from mental illnesses are the Housing Act of 1949 and the Community Health Centers Act. So, the Housing Act of 1949 ensued that public housing projects were demolished. This led to a higher increase of homelessness among those people that were poor and sick. And so the intention was that these houses were meant to be rebuilt. However, the funding was eventually cut or there was not enough for it, so these housing units were never rebuilt. And for the Community Health Centers Act, this was created with the idea that it would replace putting those with mental illnesses in institutions, specifically in-state institutional hospitals. And so in theory, this would have multiple outpatient mental health centers that should better serve the community, and it should have been a better move than the in-state institutional hospitals. However, these centers were not well equipped to handle the demands that each community had placed on them. And so for one, they were severely understaffed, underdeveloped, and overrun by the community that they were all placed in. And this prevented these centers from being beneficial to the community and actually did not help the populations in these communities that suffer from mental illnesses. So these people were then kicked to the curb essentially, and they did not receive any care at all. And so living with mental illnesses is usually hard enough when you do have the proper care and a roof over your head. However, now these patients were suffering without any place to live, as well as no help from any healthcare professionals. And then so for question number 3, many of the patients from Katrina that suffered from or for kidney or renal failure was due to the lack of electricity and water for dialysis. And so these patients suffered through kidney failure because they could not use the technology, i.e. the dialysis equipment, to keep them alive, or at least keep them comfortable. And now kidney and renal failure have become a lot more common, which has reinforced the United States' dependence on dialysis machines and technology in general that usually are used to keep the sick alive. And now that we can see that as income decreases, health conditions such as diabetes are more likely to increase. So in this article, diabetes was described to be at the crossroads between genetics, cultural, and healthcare inequalities. And so from Hurricane Katrina, a lot of patients were left without care because there was no access again to electricity, water, or other medical supplies. And there is a huge emphasis on how much America does depend on technology for its medical needs. And unfortunately, conditions like these tend to negatively affect African Americans more so than Caucasians, and this is due to African Americans statistically having a lower income. And a lower income has been proved to be connected and or related to an increased risk for health problems and other complications. And then I'm going to be answering Kayleen's questions this week. So the first one is, how can we help get patients with mental illnesses off the street? And so I think that the way we can begin to get these patients off the street is to adapt our healthcare system, but firstly start by raising national funding to support this effort. And then from there, we can begin to build suitable housings that have all the proper care those patients need in-house. And this should ensure that they will not have to go around to different hospitals or to different healthcare centers to get the treatment that they need. And they will also have a roof over their head, so they will not be out in the streets suffering as well. And her second question is, why do you think income and health are so linked together? And I think that income and health are very much linked together in our society because we are a capitalist society. And so I think if we were in a country that was more socialist, health and income would not be as correlated as they are here in the United States. And so here you need to purchase an insurance plan or pay for the part of it that your employer does not cover when they give you healthcare within your contracts. And so if you don't have a job that provides healthcare for you, you are most likely not able to afford to pay for a plan on your own. And then this means that you will likely not be able to pay for treatments for ailments that might occur throughout your lifetime. And then my questions for the week are, how can we better plan for incidents like Katrina and not leave those in need of medical care unattended? And second, why is there such a large correlation or connection between mental illness and homelessness?